Hey there, and welcome to Bold Badass Business, where we bring you badasses from all over the globe who are going to help you grow your business, help you be a better person and a better business owner, and help you create balance and success in your life. And you all today, really, my guest and I should have on pirate hats, right, Bruce? We should. We should be
Absolutely.
wearing pirate hats because today is about hidden bounty, finding the hidden profits in your business. And I'll tell you that Bruce Kaufmann, we are thrilled to have Bruce Kaufmann here from Houston, Texas. And Bruce has 40 years of experience, over 40 years of experience, you all, in the finance world as a controller, as an executive, as a consultant, and as a banker. And he brings all of this to his work with business owners, helping you find profit that you didn't even know was there. So who wants more profit? Woohoo! Welcome to the show, Bruce. So glad you're here.
Hi. Good afternoon. Glad to be here. Great way to end out the week before the holiday weekend.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's Labor Day weekend. And the funny thing is, most of us who have businesses, we do labor on Labor Day.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Not a
having a
holiday.
business doesn't mean you necessarily have freedom and don't work. You're working probably more than if you work for someone, but the difference is it doesn't feel like work, does it?
Doesn't feel like work at all.
It doesn't. So, Bruce, let me ask you this. How did you get interested in helping people find hidden profits? What is it about that intrigued you?
Uh, I'll tell you what, if you had asked me 40 years ago if I would be doing this now, I would say no, I would have just retired from a long career in banking, living off my IRA and traveling.
Uh-huh.
But the process comes as a result of throughout my career. I have been asked by the people in charge, I don't like the results I'm getting, figure it out and fix it. And literally, that was all the instruction they gave. And time and again, it always led to how the company was operating. And it always led to inefficiencies that had just crept into the way that they were doing business. And it was just costing them money. They were wasting time. They were wasting materials. They were not communicating. All these things meant it took longer to do. And at the end of the day, what it means is money being wasted, not going to the bottom line.
Mm.
And so I just decided that earlier this year, I needed to rebrand and relaunch and let's focus on finding those inefficiencies and then make some money right to the bottom line.
I love it. All right. So, it's a huge issue. And I find people lose a lot of money or leave a lot of money on the table in tax write offs, for instance. That is really true. And I'm always harping on that. So give us a sense of, so this is something that, you've seen happening a lot. How much would you estimate that the average small business owner, let's just say making 70,000 a year. I'll use that because I think that's the average for employees in the United
Mm-hmm.
States. But how much do you think they're losing in their businesses?
Oh my
What's the
gosh.
range?
You could be talking 5 to probably 20% at least. But the interesting
Whoa.
thing about it is it's not really just the dollar amount because it actually has a stacking effect that
Mm-hmm.
builds up over time. If I can give you an example, let's say you have an employee that's taking 6 hours to do a task that only can take them 30 minutes to do if we automate it. So now
Mm-hmm.
you're saving 6 hours a day times $30 an hour. What is that? $180. Sorry. But you can multiply that out times the day, times the week. At the end of the year, you may be talking $10,000, $15,000 a year. And
Wow.
you might even go, well, that's not that much if I'm doing $4 or $5 million. Well, how many years have you been doing that? For the past 4 or 5 years, now you're talking $40,000 or $50,000 that you haven't made. But let's take a look at it from another way. If it's $10,000 and your net margin is 5%, that
Mm-hmm.
equates to about $200,000 a year in sales
Whoa.
that you don't have to make now to pay for this if you automate it. And I think most people will agree if you want to increase sales by $200,000, it's going to cost more than $10,000 to do it. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
stacking effect. And there's not just one inefficiency because they interrelate one department to another, one job to another. So that I think is one of the errors people make when they think, yeah, it's inefficient, but it's only another 15 minutes. No, It's a lot more cost to you at the bottom line than you realize.
I love this. I actually put tip number 1 over here: automate tasks you're having employees do.
Right.
Automate in whatever way you can, whether it be software or a manufacturing assembly line or whatever it is. Find a way to automate and systematize to get out those inefficiencies. I'm going to put that in here too. Find the inefficiencies, because this is what I find with most small business owners. Most small business owners, Bruce, are really busy. They're like, I'm so busy, but they're busy doing shit that isn't increasing their ROI, right? That isn't increasing their bottom line. They're busy, for example, checking emails, or they're busy entering stuff in database, and they're not doing their revenue generating activities or IPAs, income producing activities. So we've got to stop that.
Right. And the interesting thing about that is, and let me go back to what you were saying a second ago about automating, right? We never want to forget the garbage in, garbage out, right? Because if you have an inefficient or a really bad process, automating means, and I actually did a short video on this, if you automate a bad process, that means you're just making a mistake faster. You're doing something wrong faster. So if you're going to automate, you have to have a process for doing that. What tasks can be automated? What is the best tool to automate them, right? A lot of people know that I'm really good at spreadsheets, and they would hire me. I've got this spreadsheet. I need you to upgrade it for me because it's too cumbersome to use. And I look at it and I go, my God, why the hell are you using a spreadsheet? You need to be using software that's already on the market for a tax accounting firm. And so now our task is, let's know what your processes are. What are they? And find the right tool, and then do the automation with that. But then back to what you were saying about the inefficiencies, my mentor used to say, imagine a triangle, right? Because sometimes it's wrong to be trying to be efficient. At the top, you have time. There's nothing we can do about that, but you have two choices: be effective, or we can be efficient. And it just depends, right? If you're trying to grow your business, your goal is to deliver on time a product or service that's a good enough quality that your client is going to pay you for. And what that means is you have to be effective. You have to get it done when it has to be done, right? And it's not time to be efficient. Like he used to tell me, if it's Thursday afternoon and you're short on cash for payroll, that's not the time to think about how do we improve our accounts receivable process. You got to get off your ass and get some cash to pay these people tomorrow, right?
Go get some
right?
business.
Generally speaking, it's more important to be effective. And what happens is, as we be effective to get it done, we, by necessity, have inefficiencies. And now what happens? Now we grow. Now we have to do another process. I don't have time. I have to get it done. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. And they just get overswamped. And that's how the inefficiencies build up. But I also like the last point to make is, you could be a business that's not really growing. If you've done the same thing, the same way for a long period of time, and you haven't evaluated the process, that can creep into it for no other reason than you just may be using outdated technology. That could really make a difference as well.
Absolutely. The technology is so powerful. I just had one of my clients asking me, Barnsley, how do I follow up with all these people I'm meeting at networking events? What do I do? And I said, well, listen, you have a lot of options. You could use Zoho, for instance, which is free. Right. You could pay a lot of money for something like Salesforce or Infusionsoft, right? Which I don't think you need with your type of business. So I wouldn't recommend that. But here's the thing. If it makes sense to you, you do the system the way that works for you. So I'll tell you a quick little system I have, Bruce. And I said, look, all of you can do this. In my phone, I have everybody's first and last name, and then right beneath it where it says company, I usually list where we met and something interesting about you or that you are interested in. Now, why do I put it right where it says company? I put it there because I don't want to scroll down to the notes section. I want to open up my contacts and be like, oh, Bruce has 3 grandchildren. I just made that up. Or, Bruce lives in Houston. Or, I met Bruce at Sajad's event, whatever. And that is enough. So for me, that is a system that I use that is super quick and easy. and I just make sure that I'm always entering people and I have them there, right? That's a system I use. And then I have other systems that I use. But what I said to one client of mine is know what your buckets are. So, for example, you might have your
Yes.
partners you're already partnering with, possible partners, prospects, people who are not yet. They've had an enrollment conversation, but they're not yet. And then you might have people who are just
I like that. Not yet. That's a
general,
great phrase.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then what you do is you just put the people in the right bucket in a document and you search the document. I mean, that's an easy way to do it. So
Right.
or put it in Evernote that way. But the point being, use the technology and use a system that makes sense to you. And that's,
Right. And
yeah.
yes. And don't you said something so important. Don't overcomplicate it. So I'm one of 6 boys. And at one time, there were 5 drivers and 2 cars. And oh
Mm.
my God, you would have thought it was the Alta Conference or something where my mother and 2 of my brothers would take 25 minutes to figure out the logistics. And I'm just sitting there and thinking, boom, 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 it's done. Right. And so it goes back to don't make it complicated. And how many times I think you're making a good point because, I want to touch on something about CRMs, but people are, what CRM should we use? And I've been through a whole bunch of them, but you make a really good point. Keep it simple. This may be the only CRM you need right now. And so why make it harder than it has to be? But when we talk about inefficiencies and we start looking at the hidden places, where can they be? Right. So most people will think, oh, inventory management. I don't manage my inventory very well, so I have overstock, but I know that, and that costs me money. But I'm also looking at things like, what about your CRM?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about, is your staff fully utilizing your CRM to the
Yep.
fullest? And well, what difference does that make? Well, I'll tell you what, if you're not following up with a customer, you may miss an opportunity to contact them at the time they're ready to make a sale. If you're not following up with them on a regular basis and they feel neglected, they're going to go somewhere else. And we go back to the stacking of the pain again, right? It's not just one lost sale. Now they're not calling you. And now what's happening is you're going to start losing market share. You're going to stop having income. You're going to stop getting money to invest. It all stacks up. And then we have to get into why are they not using it, which is, that's a whole nother topic. But this is one of the hidden areas that people won't necessarily consider when they're saying, where's their lost money? Right.
And by CRM, y'all, those of you who are new to business, it's just a customer relationship management system, right? And
sorry. Yes.
Yeah, there are a lot of them out there. I just, I know we've bandied these terms around, but just if you're new to business, that's what that is. And so people will use, even your email is really a CRM in some ways. You could use it that way. I have a database that I use like a CRM. So I actually have it segmented and I can go in and look at different buckets that I have. But the point being, you got to have a system, right?
You have to have a system, and it has to be a system that works for you. There may be fundamentals in what you need. Like, for example, when you were talking about your customer relationship management system, you have to have buckets and they have to be prospect, partner, not yet. But how you do that, that's up to you. The idea is it the most efficient way? And you try to do that when you get set up. And here's the other thing that happens, Dr. Barnsley, is that people will spend time, and it is efficient when they start, but they don't go back 6 months later, a year later, and it's become inefficient because a bunch of people are doing different things. So you have to regularly review your processes to maintain the efficiency that you need to get out of them.
Yes, I just got a little pointed with my VA, one of my VAs the other day about things, because I'll say, hey, add this to our system for social media posting, add this to our system for reaching out to guests and for then following up with guests, et cetera. Because there were things that were falling through the cracks. And there's nothing that annoys me more, Bruce, than having to, go look or go see in my Facebook community, you were not tagged. right? And that,
Oh
and
my
so I went
gosh.
in and did it myself and did the things and then sent a pointed message and said, look, this is on you. This is your responsibility. Add this in and you and I are going to look through. I want to see what you've been doing with all the things I've been sending you about, for example, our brand consistency, about our systems for social media, about our systems for, for graphic design. I want to see what you've been doing. And what I'm thinking is that perhaps some of that has been lost and has not made it into the systems, which is going to be very upsetting. Because
Yeah.
I hope not, because, you know, that's why I have the VA. I'm not the person who wants, I am not going to go in and spend my time on that. That
Yeah.
does not make any
Not
sense.
the best use of your time.
No,
And you sound a lot like me. If you ask me what is the thing that I hate the most, I hate wasting time looking for something that is not what
yes,
it's supposed to be. And I'm as guilty. That doesn't mean I always put it back in the right place because I go, well, just this one time. And in fact, I've mentioned to you about I don't like the results I'm getting. Fix it. The very first thing that I had to do was I was working for a bank whose insurance claims were constantly being denied. And that
mhm,
was my job. So when I had to file the claims, I had to look multiple places for the documents, and they weren't always there, right? And we didn't have the right ones. And so what I did was the way I fixed the process was, and again, this very simple, but one of the very simple and powerful thing to do, I created a checklist.
yep,
We're going to make this loan. Pump, pump, pump. We need all of these things. They all went where they were supposed to go, but I made a copy and I had a package ready. So if we had to file a claim, I didn't have to spend an hour or two trying to find everything and assemble it together. I could go to the file, pull it out, copy it, ready to go. Imagine how much time that saved. Plus, not just the time for me to do it, but the fact that everything was in place, no more denial of claims. So,
right.
and if I may, that goes to another point about using data to help be efficient. You want to store all your data in one place. So if we have a set of data, you and I are working together, and we've got a database we're working off of, we don't want me to have my copy and you to
Right.
have your copy and then start doing reports, because what's going to happen? They're not going to sync.
Google
So
Docs,
that's
Google
very
Docs.
critical. Right.
Google
Wherever
Docs
it
is
is,
a
that
great
works, but
thing. Yeah. That's what we
central
use.
place.
Yeah, you got to have a place that yeah, everyone's able to go in and edit and you're able to share the files, etc. You know, so important. I don't know. Actually, I don't know what we did before we had things like Google Docs, really, Bruce. I mean,
Oh,
I
man.
remember when I was working on my thesis and I was doing that thing, my master's thesis, I was doing that dang thing on this is 1989 in Edinburgh, Scotland. I was doing it on a typewriter. Oh my God. Can
I
you
remember
imagine?
those days. My wife in graduate school had somebody type those for her because, you do what you can do. This woman was a whiz at creating these papers with citations, but
Yeah.
it took me a while to adapt to the cloud, but I'm a big user of that. And my VA and I, we make heavy use of Google Docs. And when we talk about technology and saving time, so I used to take notes on paper. I have a digital notepad now that I've been
Hmm.
using. And the great thing about this is I can sync it. So when I take notes and I'm done, maybe 10 seconds later, it's in Google Drive. So now she can go and take the information in there, enter it in the CRM, da 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 da. I don't have to make notes and send it to her. It's all instant. And so
Yeah.
this is a really simple, inexpensive way. And what I like about the way you approach things is you really focus on keep it simple, keep it
Yeah.
inexpensive.
Because
And
if we
even
don't
larger
keep it
companies
simple,
can follow that.
if we don't keep it simple, we won't do it. And I've just been
That's right.
helping my clients in my Make It Happen Mastermind create their marketing plans. And I said, look, you all, we're not creating a 10-page thing that has to justify and give all the analytics. We're
Right.
looking at what do you freaking enjoy doing for marketing, as well as the 4 biggies that I tell you you've got to have to get into 6 figures and multiple 6 figures. And I always am preaching about the 4 biggies, and they are speaking, social media, email newsletters, and networking, right? These are non-negotiables. They have to be there for every single small business owner. You can't replace those. But in addition to that, we're
Right.
going to find what you really love, and we're going to systematize what is the frequency and when do you do it. So maybe Monday is Marketing Monday, for instance, and you do certain tasks that day and you block them together. Maybe Friday is Finance Friday and you do financial.
I like the way you give them alliterative names like that. So,
Yeah. But,
Finance Friday.
and you can also do it like, you can do it week by week. This is what I said to the client with the bucket. I said, look, first week, reach out to your partners. Whole week, you just reach out to your partners. Second week, reach out to the people you want to be your partners, because these are the most important people. Third week, reach out to your not yet. And so she has basically now 7-week system, and then just take the 8th week and reach out to whoever you want to reach out to.
Cycle back through
and
it
then
again.
cycle back. How beautiful is that? But that's what we need to be doing. And what I find most people are doing, Bruce, is just really, it's like the Tasmanian devil business,
Oh, that brings back a memory. I haven't thought about that for a while, but it is like that, right? And what's implied or inferred in what you said is how important it is to batch. The whole basics of what you're saying is you batch the activities, right? So if I'm going to focus on creating content, it's very ineffective and inefficient for me if I spend an hour now and then I have 2 hours of networking meetings and then I come back to it. No, Mondays are the day for creating content, posting content, or whatever. And then, for example, on my schedule, Wednesday is, I have other times during the week, but Wednesday is the one-to-one day. That's when I've got all the meetings. And you get into a rhythm, but that's all you can do. It's hard to do networking meetings in the morning and then shift your mind to something else. But if you batch it together, it's more efficient. And I think we can take a lesson from the really large companies here, right? They pay their payables on a specific day every month, and you have to have your data in by a specific day. And if you don't, they have that process, but it's always the same thing. And that's another key component of data. We've talked about having it all into one place so that it can help you be efficient. And the other key principle is when you set it up, you want it to be so that you enter something only one time, only one place. And you do it the same way all the time, every time. And if you do that, now you don't have to go back and try to fix it. And we can get into, how do you do that to build reports and everything, but that's just a basic habit that if you can get into that, I put it in the same place all the time. I do it the same way every time. Everything's in one place that everybody can access. That's just a simple, basic thing that'll go a long way to helping you just be naturally efficient and not waste time and dollars, as we were talking about before.
So I'm putting this stuff up here in the comments for everybody, but tip number 3, keep it simple. Tip number 4, put it in the same place and do it the same way every time, and checklist reign.
Oh, absolutely.
Checklists are such a good lead generator, you all. I just want to say that when there are people who are like, oh my God, I've got to write an ebook and put it on my website. No, you don't, right? I just happen to do that because I like to write. So I have How to Overcome 7 Easy Steps. Go get it, y'all. It's at my website, spirited-solutions.com. But you don't need to do that. That ebook took me a long time to write. This is long before we were really using ChatGPT. Just create a checklist with valuable information. So just what we're talking about now, Bruce, you could take this and create a checklist, like your productivity power checklist.
Yeah, take your tips, doom, right? Put it like that. And if you scoff at it, right, all I would say to you is, what does an airplane pilot go through before they take off? They have a checklist. What does NASA use?
They have a checklist.
They have a reason for it. And it's a lot more complicated than what you would use. I used to be treasurer of my synagogue for 2.5 years. And the fellow who did it before me was a CPA, brilliant guy. Every month he would have to close out the books. He had a checklist. And he said to me, I'm a CPA. I've been doing this 3 or 4 years every month. And every month I still take the checklist and I go through it. And he said, I recommend you do the same. And I'm telling you, I don't need it, but I still use it just to be sure. So that's probably one of the most valuable tips of all. And what
I'm putting up here too. I'm adding to this too. Wait, let me spell communication right. That would be good. I'm not good at listening, talking, and writing and typing at the same time.
I'll wait till you finish to tell you the
There we
next
go.
key point.
Yeah.
So how
Um,
does that relate to what we're talking about? And I'll tell you, if you have a
mhm.
good system that's simple and you have a checklist, now what you can do is you can delegate that,
Mm.
right? Because when you talk about the Tasmanian devil with the business owners, it's something we all learn. I had to learn it. Is when I first decided I wasn't going to freelance, I was going to be a business owner. This fellow Dan Kaplan, had done marketing, etc. He said the one thing you really need to understand is only do what only you can do, and he had to
Oh,
remind me of that.
I
A
love
brilliant
that.
thing. In fact, we created a process for content. And I called him up one day and I said, I've been thinking about this and I'm wondering, should I do this thing before or after this step? And he goes, Bruce, pull up that chart that we made. And I did. And he said, do you see that step on the chart? Because we had done it and we had identified who would do each step. I said, okay, you see that step that you're asking me about? I said, yes. He said, is your name in that box? I said, no, only do what only you can do. So when you have
Beautiful.
and that's why it's nice is if you have a system, if you just have a checklist, it makes it easy to delegate. And then as Barnsley, as you were referring to before, you can just go, did you follow the checklist? What it does is if there's a problem, as
Hmm.
the business owner, you save time in trying to figure out what it is because it's either followed the checklist or you didn't. And what that does is it helps you. They weren't doing what they were told, or the checklist is wrong. And if they're not doing what they're told, that's one issue. The checklist is wrong. Well, we're circling back now to when was the last time you reviewed the process? If it's been
Yeah,
six
there's
months,
something
maybe
missing.
you need to revise it. Yeah.
And you got to put the things that you need to troubleshoot in there. Don't forget those as you set the checklist up because
Right.
make sure you put the stuff in that's going to prevent, if X happens, do this. If Y happens, do this. Make sure you do that because otherwise,
Right. Oh, that's so important. You're right.
yeah,
Because otherwise they're going to be
yeah,
calling Dr. Barnsley every time, oh, this didn't happen. You
exactly.
want to tell them, I only want to hear from you if this. And ideally, I don't have to hear from you at all. I just trust that you're going to get it done. And when I look for it, it's going to be there, like you were saying earlier.
Tough love of business, Bruce. I tell you,
Well,
I don't want to meet with them and go over stuff. I don't. I'm like, look, this is why we're creating this. This is what you're going to do. This is what I'm going to do. And, and we need to step it up. That was the message yesterday.
yeah, yeah. I'll tell you
Step
two quick things about that. My mentor, consulting firm that I work with, the fellow had been doing it for 25 years after owning his own companies.
it up. Hmm.
And he had me taking basically being his office manager, controller. And this is 2000, so we didn't have a lot on computers, although I did take him from a manual ledger to QuickBooks. But he said, look, I never want to see you when it comes to paying the bills. You get the bills. I made a stamp. You put some information on the stamp. You put it in a folder. You leave it on my desk. And when I get around to it, I'll sign it and I'll put it back on your desk. I should never have to see you to do that. And the other story I wanted to share with you is got a friend. Our sons are the same age. And occasionally he would ask me to help him on some of the things. Very successful guy. Sitting around talking when our kids are playing, that's one thing. But when we're talking about this, he would say, da 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 da, this is business, Bruce. So, and it was just different switch. And that's a really key thing that we have to be aware of too is business. It's not, you're my friend, but this is business.
It's
And that's
business.
an
We
important
got to get shit
distinction.
done. You know,
Right.
get shit done with fun. That's one of my taglines,
Get shit
Bruce.
done with fun
Get shit
because
done
it's
with
all
fun
about so
for
you can
real.
make the money, so you can
Yeah.
have the lifestyle you want.
And see,
That's
this is
where it's
the
all
thing
about.
most business owners are doing. And, I just rail about this sometimes. And those of you listening, you've heard me. If you listen every week, you've heard me go off on this. Most people are just doing everything but the revenue generating activities. And this is what I tell my
Yeah.
clients. I have them every day sending me their at least minimum 3 revenue generating activities. And if they are pussyfooting around, they don't get a heart. If they're really
Uh,
good, they get a heart. If they don't get a heart, I will tell them what's wrong and tell them to step it up. But what's great about that is I say to them, look, you can get up late if you want. Just do your freaking RGAs. And then I really don't care what you do the rest of your day. For real. Put those things first. You're going to find a way to get the other things done. You're going to hire somebody, you're going to create a system, you're going to delegate it out with the system, with the checklist, with the process. But get the RGAs done, because otherwise you don't have a business, you have a hobby.
You
And
have
a
a hobby.
hobby doesn't let you stay in business, and doesn't let you prosper, and doesn't let you be a big giver in the world. And that's what my stand is. When we have more people making multiple 6 figures and 7 figures in their businesses, Bruce, guess what? Then we have a world where we can rescue more animals. Why do I have 5 animals? Because I can. Why do I give a lot to animal rescue? Because I can. But you got to have money to do it, to make a change in whatever you care about.
Yes. The same guy I was telling you about this is business. He said to me a long time ago, he said, I don't think that you understand. And I do now, but I said, look at your car. I was like, everybody with the car. He said, it's not about the car you drive, Bruce. It really doesn't matter if it's an old car or a used car or whatever. Do you have the desire to get the money you need so you can buy any car you want? He happened to drive a $70,000 turbo Jaguar, one of only 3 in the city. But it wasn't so much about that. It was just about the ability, if I want that, I can do that. And I want to, it's funny when you said that about you can get up late as long as you do the RGAs. My father-in-law owned a business in St. Louis. He made hats and caps. And he actually bought it from his in-laws, turned it around, did really well. And so my wife told me one of the secrets to his success was, because he didn't want to go to work every day just like everybody else, but what he would do is he would come in the morning. He would always do the most difficult thing first, but we don't always feel like doing the most difficult thing. So his rule was, I'm going to sit down here. I'm not getting up until I get it done. And some days he got it done in 30 minutes. And some days it took him 2 hours. He might twiddle with the paper clips, but that was his deal. And it's the same concept you're talking about. And focus on, and how many people have we seen, right? We go back to that triangle. Oh, I've got a business. Well, I'm spending my time doing my processes, making sure, that's something I'm doing now, but I can't just sit there and do my processes and not networking, not go out and sell and stop being efficient. Who can do that for you? You need to get sales, because you can talk about anything else. If you don't have sales, you have no problems you're trying to solve in the first place.
And see, here's the thing, is you've got to understand what are the steps that bring people into those sales conversations, i.e. enrollment.
Right.
It's not just like you suddenly say, well, I'm going to have 8 sales conversations this week. No. What are the steps you must take to have that happen? And for example, maybe you're broadcasting Facebook Lives and inviting people to have a complimentary session, maybe, or a sales conversation. Maybe you're speaking for a group and making an offer, and the offer is to engage in a conversation with you. Maybe you're putting some things out on social media, posting in different groups where your ideal client hangs out, and you're using that. But the point being is, you don't just say, this is a problem with how most people think of things. They'll say, oh, okay, I'm going to have 8 enrollment conversations, but they have no idea what's going to create them.
And so to kind of, tie this back to some of the things we were talking about is, what has made my clients happy when they've engaged me to do something for them, maybe versus other consultants. And I believe one of the most fundamental reasons is, I start off with, what are you trying to do? Right? And then, what are you doing now? Why is it working? What's good? What's bad? I also try to say, I don't want to completely change things, right? If they need if they need an automation or they need a spreadsheet, I don't want to give them something new. I just want to make what they have better. But the problem, and this goes back to what we were saying before about business and money, is you have to start, what is the outcome that I want? And then, when do I want to have it, right? Because you have to have a number, you have to have a date to do it. And then the question is, what does it take for me to get to that number by that date? Then what steps do I have to do that, right? And so when you're sitting around, well, I'm going to have 10 networking calls today. For what? Why are you doing that? How are they moving the needle towards your goal of getting, $20,000 a month in gross income, or $100,000, or whatever your number is? And so when you do that, now you're starting to think about the process. And is that efficient to do that? But sometimes what will happen is while you're doing this, somebody will say, hey, Dr. Barnsley, I like what you're saying. I want to begin my coaching program with you tomorrow, and da-da-da-da. And now you're like, oh, shit, I got to get this together. Now we're getting effective. We're going to get that done because why? We want to get the money in because that's what it's about. We'll be efficient. We'll be efficient. Can I share a story with you that just popped into mind? So when I was 19, I was a deckhand on towboats, right? So a good example of effectiveness and efficiency and figuring it out later. So it was December, and it was really cold. I was on the river by St. Louis. And even though you could wear layers of clothing, but what I learned was, because I grew up on the Gulf Coast, is I'm layered to the hilt, and it feels like the wind's still blowing right through me. We had to tie 2 barges together with a cable, and it was freezing cold, freezing cold. So we get there, we're dropping off for another ship. The guy from the other ship ties it up like this, big old mess. And the mate on my goes, you can't do that. You won't be able to undo it later. He goes, I don't give a, it's too, bleeping cold. I'll figure that out later. I just want to tie them together and get back inside. Effective, efficient later, So, but it's all about what do you want to achieve? And it's about making the money. So you have to keep that in mind. So I feel like I may have gone, I don't know if I've gone off track there or not.
No, but you have.
They're all interrelated, right?
Yeah, we have to find the money drains, right? And they may be subscriptions that you're not using, that you still have for your business, for AI, whatever. You can have money drains. I just killed a merchant account that I really wasn't using. And it was several $100s I was paying every year. And I'm like, God, yeah, I don't need this. Let's just get rid of it. We'll use PayPal on the website because most people pay me through Venmo and Zelle anyway. So it was like, yeah, let's just get rid of that. So this is where having a coach and a consultant, having someone who can point out the gaps in your process and the inefficiencies is so helpful. I actually say, Bruce, I give my people exact numbers of things they need to execute every day and every week. All right. So every week, 3 to 5 networking events every week, and every networking event, at least one-on-one with a possible joint venture partner or a possible client or a possible somebody you could do a platform swap with. You speak for their tribe, they speak for yours. Every networking event, because most people, for example, go into networking, la-di-da-di-da-di-da, and they're just wasting their time.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Right. Yeah, they're not doing any follow-up. So that's a very simple system I give my people. And I say, look, 3 to 5. And guess what? One of my newest clients, she resisted. I said, okay, come on. Look, why are you in this program? You're here because you want to get to 100,000 and beyond, right?
Right.
And right now, you're making about 600 a month, right? So here's what you need to do. Get your networking in order and get on it. And do you know, as soon as she got on it, and I said, and you want to have 3 paid networking groups, 3 really good paid.
Right. You have to get to paid ones.
Get the paid ones, 3. And then you can have others, but 3 that you deeply get involved with and you pay for with high level people, or at least the people you want to serve.
And you get involved. And
you get involved, like deep level, right? You get involved, you show up, you lead, you speak, all that stuff. You bring speakers, you're active on the Facebook page, all that. And I said, so you got to do this. There's no way around this. This is the thing you're resisting, and it's the thing that is your success. And as soon as she started that up, guess what happened? She nailed her first $10,000 paid in full coaching contract. Then she nailed another one the next week for $3,000. That was a shorter term program, and she's on her way.
A good testament to your program that it really works. Because people see results. And what this leads to, so it's always about numbers, right? When we're talking about data and how do we use the data to find the inefficiencies in our business. And we talked about sales, right? Because that's a key thing. And costs that we're incurring because we're wasting time, we're wasting resources. Here's another way that you use data, And that's in the area of metrics, right? Because you can't
Mhm.
manage what you can't measure. And in this specific case, so I sold insurance a while back, health insurance 20, 30 years ago. It was a very simple formula. You get 20 good calls, you will make on average 3 sales a week, and you'll do okay. And so what a lot of people do is they don't put people in buckets. They don't go into networking meetings with the goal of, okay, when I go into a networking group, here's how I evaluate it. When I go, do I always find 3 people I want to connect with? And or am I getting people getting on my calendar because I put my information in there in meetings? And as long as that's going on, I'm going to stay. But if that doesn't happen for 3 or 4 months, it's
Mhm.
not their fault. I'm in the wrong room.
Yep.
But now I'm making these calls. Let's say I'm doing 10 or 15 a week, right? How many of these calls are not yets? How many of these calls are no ways, right? How many calls does it, how
Mhm.
many meetings do I have to have before
To
I
get
land a
results.
prospect call, right?
Yep.
Because that's what's going to help you become more effective and efficient in your marketing efforts. And that's not wasting time. That's not wasting on the floor, but that helps you be more efficient in your time and eliminate one of these hidden profits that are in your business.
And you know what? I love what you're saying. I'm totally with you, Bruce, on that. And I have my people, I'm like, okay, you want to get to 10K a month? Let's just say 10K a month. But what does it take to get there? And we
What does it
outline
take?
exactly what it takes based on
And
their conversion rate, based on their usual conversion rate. How many people, how many to get one $5,000 customer or one $10,000 customer, how many conversations do they generally have to have? Right.
right,
And
what's your sales cycle?
yep. And what's your sales cycle? And here's the thing. People say, well, you have to, you really, you can't have people buy things when you first meet them. I've had that happen. That's a bunch of bullshit. Yes, you can. It's
It's not
all
true.
about your
It's
skills.
not true.
It's
It's not
about your
true.
skills, right? And if you have the right messaging that is so very clear, then your client is going to hear it and they're going to be like, yes, she's speaking to me. Oh, Bruce is speaking to me. I need that. And they're just going to jump in. I've done that for things that cost thousands of dollars where it's like, oh, yeah, I need that. Here,
Now,
take
you
my
didn't walk in expecting to spend that, but it's not
no.
just having the right message and knowing how to convey it. It's really important to know. It goes back to what I said before. But now instead of what is my outcome, which is to make $100,000 a month, and in order to do it, I have to make these calls and I have to do all that.
Mhm,
Yes. But when you're in that conversation, your outcome doesn't matter a damn bit. What's the outcome they want? And how
mhm.
can what I do help them reach
Exactly.
their outcome? You have to have that mental focus, and it's the same thing. What will it take to get them there? And you have to also be willing to walk away sometimes, right? I know we're not talking about that in provinces marketing, but sometimes you have to want to say, you know what, I'm not the right person for you. Talk to Dr. Barnsley. She is more
Yeah.
working with people like you than I do, and have in mind, I'm going to help them get what they want, even if it means I'm not the one to do it,
And
because
speaking
that
of hidden
that will pay
profit,
off dividends, right? So
yeah. Speaking of hidden profits, right? And finding places where you're inefficient so you have more profit, think about what is the procedure that you have people do prior to the conversation you have with them. What
ah,
are you having them do? Are you requiring them, for instance, to watch a short video that introduces them to you and what you do? Are you having them fill out an application? Everybody who gets my complimentary Get Results Now session, and you all can get it who are listening. Just go to spirited-solutions.com and just scroll down just a tiny bit and you'll find it right there. But you have to do an application. It's an 11-minute application. The application creates clarity. Just the application creates clarity for people.
right.
And so we want to have steps for people to take before we even have that conversation. And it'll be very clear that we don't need to have the conversation or that we do need to have it, right? You want to weed people out
Yes.
before you even sit down so you're not wasting your time, and your time is money.
And what does that do for you, Dr. Barnsley? As a result, you are more efficient when you're
Yeah,
dealing with the clients, and the conversations are more productive. So it's a more efficient use of the client's time as
exactly.
well. And this is, I say this because the hidden profits, think of inefficiencies, it's the same thing. And the
Yeah,
reason they're hidden is we only tend to think of it as wasting time or wasting resources, but there's other little things that you can do and that you're wasting time that you don't think of, right? Or you're spending time doing things that you shouldn't be doing. What did somebody tell me the other day? He said he heard it from somebody else. There's no point becoming good at something that you shouldn't be doing in the first place.
I love that.
You know,
Yes.
right. And what does our friend Sajat say? If
Yes.
it's a $10 job, pay somebody $10 to do
Pay
it.
somebody
You
to
do what
do
you
it.
do, right? Because what it's going to be is then you become more efficient. You don't waste time and money. You will find batching and everything else that you're advising. You're going to bring in more. You're going to keep more, right? And let somebody else do the data entry. I have a VA that will do the data and the entry in the spreadsheet. I'm not going to do that.
No.
And actually, they'll do it better than me because they have a higher tolerance for something like that. So
and
yeah,
they enjoy it because they're probably in their mind, they're more
yeah,
mechanics, right? So they love that.
wow.
So it comes down to, something that those of you listening could take away. For instance, this is a great activity to do. It's one of the things I like to do with my clients. We do many exercises that apply information, but one thing you can do is high value activities, low value activities. All right. This is where you get your high value activities are anything that leads to a sale, right? Very directly to a sale. So that would be, for example, speaking for a group and making an offer. All right. That would be you. Yeah. Just anything like that. That would be you doing a webinar and then bringing people into your funnel that way. So that would be a high value activity. And like you said, like you pointed out, Bruce, those are the things that only you can do. You're the only one who can present as Bruce Kaufmann. I'm the only one who can present as Dr. Barnsley. Then the low value activities are things like database entry, cleaning your office, taking out the recycling, just doing database entry, stuff like that, creating spreadsheets to put all your podcast guesting information on.
Right.
Like
Google Docs, Google Sheets, right? Have that in your
yes.
place for somebody.
Regular social media
Exactly.
posting of like getting people to subscribe to your YouTube channel or talking about your show. All of that goes to the VA. Creating reels, VA, all of that stuff. Those are low value activities. And what I mean, they'd still have value, but anybody could really do them.
You're wasting money if you do them because it
Yep.
costs more. Your rate is higher. And let's take that concept to something else, right? Your sales. Now, this predates any kind of technology. Let's say you have 20 customers. This guy is spending $1 million a month with you. This guy is spending $500,000 a month. I'm throwing out numbers. Who are you going to be spending a lot of time with? The $1 million a month customer.
Mm-hmm.
But how many times have you sat down? And again, this is not something you have to do, right? You can hire someone to do that or outsource it because what you need to do is, oh my gosh, I'm making a 5% net margin on the $1 million guy and I'm spending 20 hours a week, whereas the $500,000 guy making 10% and I'm only spending 5 hours. You need to fire or change the pricing with the $1 million guy. And what happens is what you do is your time is better spent looking at the results of the data and deciding how you're going to go forward. But should you be sitting there creating the spreadsheet to figure out how that is? Listen, I'm really good at spreadsheets, but when somebody gives me one to do now, I don't do it because there's people that are much better than me and I don't serve the client well, in addition to not using my time well. The client doesn't benefit if I try to do something that somebody can do better. But there's so many places that you can look, and we have hit the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, we have, but we've given them 8 tips, and it's time. We could continue this conversation forever, Bruce. I love this kind of.
Well, if you know me, I could certainly talk forever. There's a lot of people who will tell you.
You and me both.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to be able to do. It's a good thing to have more ideas than you can possibly express, rather than the opposite, right? Really.
Yes.
I put tip number 7 up here. Do not spend your time on low value activities, right? That can be delegated out to somebody else, in other words. And tip number 8, know who your A, i.e. best customers are and focus there. 80-20 rule, right?
Absolutely.
Because 20% of your clients are producing 80% of your revenue, right? And so the other 80%, don't worry about them. because they're a very small amount. I mean, I'm not saying abandon them, but just, put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, as they said in those commercials. But be aware of your top 10 or your top 20 customers, and and your top 10 and top 20 partners, referral partners and joint venture partners, and nurture those relationships, because that is going to take you way further than focusing on people.
You make more money from existing customers, right? As it says, than new ones.
Yeah, exactly. Stop thinking you have to go out and hit the, pound the pavement. Go back to the people who have worked with you before and offer them something updated or something new. Develop something else for them based on what you hear them complaining about. Listen to their complaints, listen to their concerns, and then develop a solution, right? Create a solution for them. Wow, we've covered a lot, really, Bruce, here. And I hope
I can't believe the time's over already. It went very fast.
No, it went fast, huh? This is the best thing. Bold Badass Business is never boring. Never boring. And you've got 8 tips. Everybody listening here, I hope that if you were out walking your dog or your cat or hopping your rabbit, some people put rabbits on leashes. I think that's weird. But anyway, whatever you're doing, I hope that you're going to go back and you're going to look at these tips and actually write them down for yourself or put them on your digital note taker. And remember, and just go back and ask yourself these questions. What do I not have templates for that I'm doing over and over? And how stupid is that? I'm losing so much time, energy, and money. What do I not have checklists for? And so it's taking me 5 times the amount of time to do a simple task because I don't have a checklist, or I don't have a system I give to my VA. And, what am I spending time on that is not really revenue generating? And how can I get that off my plate and onto somebody else's? And maybe it doesn't even need to be done at all. That's the thing. Maybe it doesn't even
when
need
you go back and review, half the time you're going to find, why am I doing this now? Or ever. Very good point.
Bruce, I have Dr. Barnsley's HBDO formula. And sometime when you get your tribe together, you should have me in to talk about this because you would love it. But from what we've talked about today, you'd be like all over the HBDO formula.
Probably so.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And it's a way to clearly classify what you're going to do, what you're not going to do, who's going to do it, and what needs to be done. And, we've got to have these quick ways to think about stuff, because being in business, if we're going to be successful in business, what we've got to do is take a long journey that would take somebody a very long time. Like it took me a very long time to get into 6 figures. So what I've done is I've compressed that for people into a couple of years, a year or 2, or less than a year for some people. What are you doing? What's the journey your customer wants to take? And how can you compress that for them? Because that's what they're paying for. They're paying for you to help them have it and do it faster and easier. Well, with that, Bruce, I know that you were going to give everybody something. And we're putting it into the freebie vault. And those of you who listen regularly, you know that the freebie vault is where you can get thousands and thousands of dollars of gifts from these badass business owners who come on the show. It is found at, get your pencil, bit.ly/free from Dr. B. That is free from DRB. All right, bit.ly/free from DRB, Dr. B. And just put your name, your email in, and you'll be able to open it up and you'll be able to choose whatever gifts you want. So, Bruce, what are you putting into the freebie vault? Just give them a quick little teaser.
Oh, sure. What I did was I created 6 ChatGPT prompts that you can use to unlock hidden profits in your business.
Woohoo!
You can select parts or just copy and paste it in and let ChatGPT guide you, and then just go from there.
I love that. What a perfect PS to the conversation today, you all. There's your homework. Go get that out of the freebie vault, bit.ly/free from Dr. B. Look for Bruce Kaufmann and grab this checklist. Stick it into ChatGPT and you'll be able to see those danger zones for you where you're losing money and you're losing efficiency and you're losing resources. You're not making the best use of your resources. Well, Bruce, it's been an amazing time with you.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. Great way.
Yeah, I did too. What a great meaty conversation. There's so much good in here. So everybody, remember, Bold Badass Business has the best business boosting tips out there. And even if you don't feel like a badass right now in your business, you are, because you're tuning in. So tune in next week at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific for Bold Badass Business. And in the meantime, get out there, kick some butt, and make a difference. Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.